Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party and my buddy Rhett. And Rhett, you know what? We have a peanut for you. Got your peanut. Woo! Let's see. There you go. She was being very good, anyways. I guess she was just kind of chillaxing back there. Um, but she's been pretty quiet all morning. And we are working on unit tests. Tomorrow, Saturday is so today's Friday. It is May 2nd. So we are definitely at we at the front end of summer. So far, summer hasn't been super hot. We get really really hot though, like in June. June is when we'll start seeing like 90s and 100 degrees Fahrenheit with just like maximum possible humidity. So outside it'll just be like a greenhouse. We'll get like 2 solid hours of rain, just like where it just rains hard for 2 solid hours, and then absolute blue skies sunlight for the next 2 hours, and then our trees and grass will just grow like crazy, and the grass won't really be cuttable. So it's you want to get that everything is ready for that to come because it's going to be absolutely beautiful, just hot. And then you kind of race to the car, get into the air conditioning, race to the house, keep all the blinds and everything in the house completely shut so that the house doesn't heat up, doesn't lose its air conditioning. And then we are like completely surrounded by trees, so the trees just absorb all the AC. And it's kind of an interesting kind of thing that happens around here. Is what'll happen is people, first thing they do when they come in is they get terrified of the trees. They're like, oh my gosh, the trees are gonna fall on my house, blah 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 blah. And then they cut down all the trees, and then they find out that like literally there's no way to keep their house cool. Like their house gets so hot that they can't, and they can double up, triple up air conditioners, and it doesn't matter because those trees are just absorbing so much energy before it gets to the house. And that's like a kind of a common practice around here. Like people move in, especially if they move in the winter. People will move in the winter, and then like they start getting just inundated by tree service advertising, and then it's all scary. It's like, oh, you're in danger. Your kids your kids could die in their sleep from a tree falling over. So they cut down all the trees out of just pure fear. And then next thing you know, they're just like, why is it so hot in this house? And it's just like, yeah, you know, those trees were doing work. Now, fortunately, the trees grow really fast around here. So in like 3 years, the trees will grow up, and they'll be, absorbing most of the sunlight, and they'll be right back to go. But that's kind of one of those, if you ever find yourself moving into Georgia, particularly in the South Georgia or Middle Georgia, that'll be a thing. It's not so big of a thing in the mountains, because we do have a mountainous in the northern part of Georgia, which is all mountains. But our unit test suite for app model service covers 75% of the, or 80% of the statements, 75% of the functions, and 80% of the lines. So we have 5 lines, 5 statements, and 5 lines. We have 4 of them covered. We have all our branches covered, which is 0, and 75%. So 3 out of 4 of our functions are covered. Now the only challenge, so if we click in here, the only challenge we have is we're in our unit tests, we're going to need to actually create our own little visualization. We could mock one, or we could actually create an actual visualization, an ST visualization. I think creating an ST visualization is pretty easy, except for the fact that I think a visualization also has a component in it, and components so that do stuff. But really, all we need it to do is be an object. So we can use TypeScript to kind of force it to just let a blank object be an ST visualization, pass it in there, and check that it is, like, literally it could just have an ID and all that. So maybe we could play around with some, what are they called, utility TypeScript utilities to sort of aid us in this endeavor. Looks like I am missing a couple of semicolons, so let's go ahead and do that. Why are you? Okay, it's just slow. Click the button and all that. Okay, so the first thing is we want to create a new specification, and specification is a synonym for a test. So a new test, a new specification. I know that is probably a confusing word because a specification usually in my first job that I ever had as after I graduated from college was as a systems engineer. And as a systems engineer, and my job was to write specifications for code. So software specifications, that's what I did. I wrote software specifications. And those were not tests, they were requirements. That requirement was a synonym. So I guess this is more of a test of a requirement. And I guess the requirement on this is it shall be able to assign a value to the edit visualization. So we're going to do that, and we're just going to say should, and we'll just use set the edit visualization. So that is the, what do they call it? They call, I just forgot what it was called. The expectation. The expectation. And then we are going to give it a callback, which is also an assertion. Assertion. I like that word a lot. That word is was the very first word that opened a whole new world of understanding for me. The word assertion assert is extremely important in the English language. It is the way that the people who write tests determine where you are in the social hierarchy. If you see assert to mean one way, then it means that you're from a working class. If you see it another way, it means you're more from a leadership class of some sort. So when you say, I need you to go in there and assert yourself, depending on what you think you're supposed to do when you get in there, is kind of defines where you live in the social hierarchy of America. Anyways, so let's just go ahead and create a partial ST visualization. So const. I don't know. I guess it doesn't make sense to make it a partial visualization, but let's see, ST viz, and that's of type ST. Is it ST? It's capital ST visualization. It really bothers me that it's not VIZUALIZION. Okay, and we're just going to say that this is equal to, and we're just going to give it like an STID. I think it's STID. Oh, it's ST visualization ID of 1. And then we are going to say as unknown. And then as ST visualization. So we're basically just going to tell the TypeScript transpiler to turn off protections on this right here. That's basically what we're doing. Now, I guess I could have done like, I don't know. Just so I think I could have done partial. I don't know if it's supposed to be uppercase. Partial. And then, yeah, I don't know exactly how you do that. I once worked at one place where we did like we use this partial all the time, and none of us actually understood what it was doing. But there was another one called record that is a utility that is basically a map, and I was just like, I discovered that like 5 or 6 videos ago, and it just freaking blew my mind. And I guess I'm bringing it up because I don't want to forget about it, because anytime I make a dictionary, I'm always searching, okay, how do I TypeScript a dictionary? And not partial, but record is the magic. All right, so now I have lied. I've lied to the system, and I'm going to try to run set edit visualization function. I'm going to pass it my stviz with a Z. And I know that it's just sort of in a standard that the service that we're actually testing, we just always call service. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but it has not let us down so far. And then stviz. Now, let's just say I didn't do all this stuff up here, right? Let's say I just got rid of that. Oops. And got rid of this. See, it's not going to let me send it in. So that was the only reason I did all that stuff. So I guess I kind of did something ahead of time. Now this, as you could tell, wasn't absolutely necessary. Since I'm already doing it there, it doesn't really need me to tell it here. But I just like doing that just for consistency service reasons. Just as like, it saves me a second when I'm looking here trying to figure out what this thing is in the future. So if I hit save at this point, let's see if it reruns. Sometimes it reruns, sometimes it doesn't. Say 9 out of 10 times it will rerun. Don't really know why it doesn't rerun sometimes. So we added one more test. We have a warning that this guy has no expectations. And we do have 100%. So now what do we expect? We expect the services. So expect is a function, and you pass it a value. And that value for this point is going to be service dot edit visualization. And we want to, then you pass it a second thing, you chain it to, and then you want to say basically, and let's go ahead and add one more thing. St visualization ID is equal to be equal, to equal, and we want it to be equal to the stviz dot st visualization ID. And then now we have that, and so basically we're just saying, hey, did it actually, like if I ever go in here and change something to where I don't know, I get all fixated and focused on something, and I kind of get confused, and I change the way line 20 works, and somehow I'm no longer assigning it to the one this test will, kind of jump out and say, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Oop, cancel. Did not want to save that. Hit save in there. Our little warning should go away. And so we made changes in our visualization spec and in our app, and we created an app model service. So now let's hit reload. We still have 100%. We don't have a warning anymore. So basically now, okay, let's go ahead and just double check that the visualization spec is still, because I believe in visualization spec we also, yeah. So basically we're focused on these two, which is like kind of a concept that like when we first started doing unit tests would have been like, very, very confusing. So like if this is your first video of mine that you watched, basically I have two suites of functions of tests that I'm having it focus on, and then I'm wanting to get 100% in both of them. And so yeah, visualization spec is also getting 100%. I guess to be completely sure, we can hit this and go back to I love you too, Rhett. Go back to here, and basically what we want to see is 100%. So that, see, this time it only ran the 4 tests, and we're still at 100%. And then I can come down, go up here. Now I put the F back for this guy, so we can just double check that that guy is getting 100% on his own, and that this one doesn't get 100%. I mean, this one isn't like causing a side effect. And that was just like another kind of thing that we sort of evolved to. It used to be all I wanted was 100%, but now I wanted every suite to get 100%. So yeah, we have 100%. So now if I remove this focus, so that it, because it was only running these 5 tests. So if I remove that and hit save, we should run, I don't know how many tests, like 80 tests or something, 61 tests. Oh, we did not get 100% though. So somebody. So app is not getting 100%. So there is a function in here that's not getting. Wait, create, and animate renderers. Set timeout. So this function never gets called. Now I don't think we need it anymore though. See, that was that. So what was happening was, it used to be that I wanted to run all of these I wanted to run these like 4 seconds apart, just to make sure that there was nothing like in timing that was like, I wanted to wait and add 4, and I think I just thought it was cool. So basically I would create 4 of them on the construction, and then I would wait 0 seconds, create 4, or wait 1 second, create. But I don't think I want to do that anymore. And it was actually waiting 1,000 and all that. So I think I'm just going to comment that out. And I guess that's a win for unit tests, is like, okay, so I have some dead code that I don't want anymore. I do want a reference to it, but I don't need it to be active anymore. So it'll be easier for me to go, okay, I can just delete this in the future. So well, that was crazy though. We like literally lost 2% from that. Let's see, hundreds all around. Perfect score. So that is good. Oh, well, it looks like it just finished, so I don't know. I think this is sometimes a little bit behind this, but anyway, so we're at 100%. So that is complete. Let's see, 18 minutes. It's only 8:10 a.m. So I guess we'll commit this and push it. And basically we add the app model concept. Oh, I guess before we push though, I always want to, let's kill our unit tests here. And we just want to make sure, I don't think anything's going to break, but want to make sure our end-to-end tests work. Run open Cypress. And basically npm. What am I doing wrong? Okay, so let's go to our package. And anytime I go to my package JSON, I kind of have this little trigger in my head where I say, should I close all the others? And yes, I should this time. So I'm looking for my script. Oh, Cypress open, not open Cypress. npm run Cypress open. So basically, I'm looked through my scripts to see what it was, and I said open Cypress, but it's actually Cypress open. And this is going to launch the Cypress window, or Cypress application, which is an Electron application, and it is big pimpin'. It's really awesome. Man, I definitely need it to be Friday. Why? So sometimes, when you're working like big corporate entities or big large entities, like they have problems, and their problems are usually much bigger than anything you could even sort of imagine for yourself, like that you could even create. That's why enterprise developers, are difficult to find. Now the job of enterprise developer is what you would call a super thin market. And the thing that's about thin markets, there's thick markets and thin markets. And the thing about thin markets is that there's not a lot of supply and not a lot of demand. So you have crazy, insane price jumps. So like even the smallest drop in demand can cause the amount that you would have to pay for someone to go way down, because like the demand has dropped. So let's say only 10 things need to be bought, and so supply is supply 10, and then there's only 10 buyers, and then one of the buyers drops out. That means that one of those 10 supplied are going to lose their job. Well, if they're going to go from being an enterprise developer making, let's just for fun, $1 million a year, and they're going to go from that to working at Pizza Hut. Apparently no one out pizzas the Hut. Then, that person is probably willing to take a massive pay cut in order to, like continue to code and stuff. And then, but let's say now tomorrow, 12 people need to buy 9 developers, because let's say the other developer is no longer decided to go in another field or whatever. Well, now those 3 newcomers have to outbid for the 9 people. And so now, they might have something that they need to pay a ton of money for. So now suddenly the prices just go through the roof. So that's sort of the nature of a thin market. And that is, if you're going to be an enterprise developer, that's what you're entering in. You're entering into wild swings in income. You will literally, you could spend a year where half the year you're making $200 an hour, and half the year you're making nothing. Or, you got some manager at a fast food place yelling at you, and you're making, $8 an hour. It's just crazy like that. But then when the rates go way up, then what you get is a lot of people who fake. And then the worst part about that is that a lot of the fakers don't even realize they're faking. Like they're just told, oh yeah, you're doing so good and blah, 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 blah. I have a Hispanic last name. I'm Hispanic and my last name is Hispanic. And I remember I got reached out to by this guy who is a manager of employees for the city of New York. And not like some organization that falls under the umbrella of the city of New York. And I think he must have thought that I was like in some very, very low cost of living country, because of the Hispanic last name. And so he was literally trying to help hire me for $5 an hour to do somebody's work. And this person would just go to meetings all day long, and then I would do all their software development work. And that's what he was trying to propose for me to do. He reached out to me on LinkedIn, and it was kind of crazy. And then, so anyways, okay, I'm running my first unit test. So anyways, I definitely said no. Okay, so this one passed. It's not a unit test. My first spec, my first Cypress spec, my second Cypress spec, and that passed. And then my third Cypress spec is the most interesting. Oh, spec. I don't know what that even did. This is my resize one. I'm hoping to make a video of this weekend. Like an 8-second or 15, maybe 30-second video that kind of shows the whole thing resizing. I do not like the way that ended. That was kind of crazy. I think it's because it must have been where my mouse was. Okay, so let's go ahead and rerun that. So there it is at, I wonder if there's a way. See, it would be nice if I could see this viewport stuff. Okay, so I don't think you could see that viewport stuff. Okay, so this is viewport 1024 with, now it's viewport 512, and now it's viewport 718 and viewport 830. So as you noticed, the only thing I'm trying to do is just make sure that we don't lose this redrawing as the viewport changes. So we'll do that one more time. So 1024, as you see, we see 3 rows plus 1. Now we could see 4 rows. We see 4 rows of 3 now because it went wider. Now we see 4 rows of 4. So that is our viewport resize end-to-end test. So anyways, all our tests passed, so that's a good thing. Believe I can just kill this and it kills everything, kill that, which is a bit opposite of unit tests where you have to kill them from the command line or they'll just keep coming back. And if you kill Visual Studio, then the only way you can get rid of it, as far as I could tell, well, you could like go into your task manager and try to kill it that way, or you have to shut down and restart the computer. So what are we at? 8:16. All right, so let's commit this. We're going to add everything. Let's kind of just look through all of our changes. This is always a good thing to do. Just make sure there's nothing, that everything that we have done makes sense. Yeah, I think comment. These are the things you really got to watch out for. Like, oh, okay, I commented, did I want to comment that out? Sometimes you'll comment things out just for testing purposes. And forgetting to uncomment them is a classic mistake. So, so this was our roll-up file. So that we could expose the TypeScript through there. Let's see, app model. This is our brand new interface. Basically an app model as a list of visualizations, an array of visualizations. App services spec is just a unit test for them. Just kind of look for console logs or something like that. We don't want those. And then this is our app model service. So we can get visualizations, we can set the edit, and we can clear the edit visualization. Those are features we are not using at this time, but we should be using them soon. And then this is, we added a new service because we created a new service that returns the visualizations. We're not doing much actual testing in that. We're just making sure that it works, that it transpiles basically. And then this is our new method. Okay. And git commit -m adds application model concept, because we don't really use it, but we added it. And then we're going to push this thing. And now, next on the list is we want to not have anything here, which that's easy. We can get rid of that. But we do want something like this. to be in the upper right of that. And basically, we do want sort of like, we don't want it to be too particularly smart. Really, all we want it to be what a lot of people would call a dumb component. We want it just basically to be able to just sort of announce to the world that it has been clicked and what got clicked. And that's it. That's really, I think, the full breadth of that. So probably just needs to be a standalone individual component that the application just puts wherever it feels like putting, and it just opens up when you click on it and shows you what your options are, what you can do. And at first, the only option will be to add a component. So first thing we want to do is create a component. And like, there's so many first things, right? Like, the first thing, maybe we want to create a signal. So, as of, I believe it was Angular 18, they created this thing called a signal, which is, I think, a little simpler to deal with than RxJS. So like, if you're working on an older version of Angular, then the first thing you'd probably do, the first thing you might want to do is like have some centralized service. And I don't know if we already have a centralized service that is like our app service. Let's go look at our services. So we probably, we have our app model service. So yeah, this is probably where we would want to keep, like, if we were doing RxJS, we'd want to create like our behavior that we're going to listen to and subscribe to here. But since we're in Angular 19 plus, I'm going to create a signal here. Now, do I want to create the signal and then the component, and then once that's working, then set up the signal so that it can subscribe? I don't think it matters. So I think I'm going to go with the component first. And then we're going to need to make changes in our app to show our component and place our component, which we want. And we're going to want it to always be in this right-hand little section. So no matter what we do, if we go here or we go off the screen, no matter what we do, it's always on the right. Now, that kind of like, see how I have it set up, my recording setup. If I do scroll off the screen, you won't be able to see it. And that's probably one of the major reasons a lot of people advocate for the three dots being here, because you could always count on the upper left. You rarely ever see anyone do the opposite, like make something bigger to the left. Like, you're almost always gonna be able to see the upper left of any page. But I think that, that's sort of swimming upstream. I think that everything seems to always want to put everything in that upper right, just like these things. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that is like purely like a right to left writer. Like, I know there are some things where they write stuff from left to right, and maybe they have everything on the left up here. I don't know, but in everything that I work with, everybody always wants everything in that upper right. So that's where I'm going to put it. So I want to create a new component, and let's see, where are we at on time? 8:25. So first thing we do is we go to our package. We already have one package. And what do I do when I go to my package? I usually close all the other files, because they will stack up. And then I'm going to come in here. I'm going to create a new script, and this new script is going to allow me to create a component. And what I will do is and I think I start all these like with S. So see, this was my components viz. So I kind of want to do basically very equivalent to this. And I think anything that starts with a C will, so that's C viz service. Oh, so that was the components service, which this one will probably have its own service as well, but maybe not because it is pretty simple. Let's see. Do we have any other C's? No, because I think we only have one component right now. We have the app component and all that. So what is this thing going to be called? Menu. I feel like that's what it should be called, even though that's so darn generic. I'm going to call it menu. And I'm going to think to myself, oof, I hope I don't regret this. But, okay, I'm going to call it app menu. I think I want it like that. And then it's going to go in the components folder, and it's going to be called app menu. So you notice that, you may notice, or you may not, but you may notice that when I do services, I kind of have to add extra layers of folders, but with components, it actually will create a app menu folder and then put everything in there. With a service, it doesn't do that. It just seems to just put it in the directory that you tell it to go to. So this will put a folder in the directory in the components directory. Did I misspell? I guess I misspelled that then, but I think I probably manually fixed it. Yeah. So let's get that right. So the next time I create one of these, I'll have that right. All right. So now what I want to see is I want to come over here, close the services folder up, open my components service, and see how I have a viz folder. What I want to see is another folder. So then it won't do this. I don't like that. I don't know why they did that. I wish there was a folder under here, but I don't know. It doesn't bother me that much. It's just weird. npm run c app menu. And then I think I say this every time, but I think like most of the people that watch this video will have watched my other videos, so I'm just repeating myself. But if this is your first time, I always put things in the script like this. One is because I like to have like sort of a history of what I've done and some sort of a template of what I have. But two, I also like to run it from this scripts because it ensures that it will use these node modules, the node modules for this project. So it won't try to run any sort of globally installed things or anything. It will only run it only has the scope of this project. And it rarely ever bites you, and may never bite you anymore. It used to kind of bite me once in a while, where I'd be like, why didn't that work right? And it'd be like, oh, because it ran a global, some globally installed thing, and that was a different version. And those bugs are so hard. Like literally, if you did this 10,000 times and it avoided the problem one time, it was worth it, because trying to figure that bug out is so hard. Anyways, so now we're going to run this. We're expecting to see a new folder in here, and then I think it'll lay out more like the rest of the folders. Like, instead of being like in line like that, it'll be more like this, where you have the little checkboxes. And actually, it'll be fun to see what happens when you do it live. See if that works. And just see if it even put it in the right place. So it's showing, oh, so it collapsed it. So now when we open, we have the app menu. Okay, so that is awesome. That's what we were hoping for. And we are still in the, so I think if we go into app menu, TypeScript, we will see, I think by default nowadays, these are all standalone. So it has its own imports and all that. So if you're working on an older version of Angular, they aren't. Usually with a lot of the older versions, either the concept of standalone doesn't exist or the default isn't standalone. But and then in here it just says app menu works, and now it's kind of on black. I mean, we have black text, so you're not even going to be able to see it. So I'm going to hit a space, and I'm just going to add style, and then color wheat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into our app component. Now, just sort of, what are we on, Tom? 831, we're still good. So by default, we do not have our, so you used to have modules, right? But now that these are standalone, the import happens here. And I would need to import it here if I want to use it. But I'm going to just show you just for, you know, because why not? Our selector is app menu. And I'm going to move into here. And it's so important to know how things fail, because like so when you're working by yourself and you're like new and you're learning and stuff like that, you know, you may avoid errors, and then when you avoid the error, you don't become familiar with the error. But when you work with other people, particularly if they aren't, like, let's say they're a back-end developer and they don't work with Angular very often, they may have bugs, they may have issues that you've never seen before. Okay, I feel like that shouldn't be tabbed out. So I'm going to do that. I have a OCD by proxy, because those sorts of things just don't bother me, but I've worked with so many people that do. So if you're doing this, like, the IDE will help you, and it'll tell you, hey, I don't know what that is. If you hit save at this point, you will also get an error here, and you may get an error up here. And it's just going to say it's not a known element, blah, 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 blah. If you do a search on that, they'll tell you to put it into your modules. It may say to, you know, and, you know, if you're working standalone, then you don't need to do that. But what you want to do is you want to do this. And actually, I was working with a really brilliant API developer a couple days ago, and she was just like, we had modules, and she was having this problem, and I was just like, oh yeah, you have to import this class into the module. And the thing is she was like, we were trying to talk, and there's a bit of a language barrier, and I was telling her what to do to fix it. But, and because I had basically pulled her branch down and then did the fix and showed her what the fix was, but she didn't realize, and I had to like stop everything and get very, very like stern, about like, hey, okay, this is where this comes from, because it's not this, it's this. And then there's some contexts where you don't even have to have a selector. You're just pulling things in by class. So it's kind of a bummer that these two aren't, this binding, this sort of relationship is just here. This is the only place it is. And if that doesn't make sense, it may make sense to you in the future on why that's kind of a pain in the butt. But anyways, we want to import that. And we want to import the name of the class into our imports. And 99 times out of 100, you'll get this blue thing if you're using Visual Studio Code. If you're trying to do Angular without Visual Studio Code, good luck. Visual Studio Code is just really well suited for Angular. It just is a lot easier. So it's telling me I can import it from here. So, and that looks right. App menu component. I think I would rather it be with my other components. So again, that's not the kind of thing that bugs me. It's sort of an OCD thing that I get by proxy, because such a high percentage of developers have like sort of OCD issues, and that hurts them emotionally. I think it actually hurts them physically. And you probably, once you get more than 2, you probably want to make sure that they're in alphabetical order. So QRSTUV, Control V, and then I see that I have these up here. And then most linters will have sort of a limit of how long the text can be. So when you start getting all these imports, this is what you typically have to do to defeat the linter. And then some places want you to kind of do it like that, and then some places want you to do it like that. I don't care, but I'm just going to show you. And then so that is quite often that, but they absolutely never ever want you to do this. So whatever. They always want that, and then they almost always want these spaces in here, and then they usually do not want a space there. That freaks them out. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't really get. It doesn't. That doesn't bother me. But what bothers me is that it bothers other people. So, anyways, now when we hit save, since we've imported our new component, our app menu component, it should work, I think. And I think it did, but I think it's back. Yeah, maybe it's behind here. Let's see. Let's do an inspect. Let's see. App root, app menu. See, our app menu is here, but it is behind this guy. So Z index 2. No. Let's see. So this is telling me that the Z index is what tells it the depth, but it's giving me a little thing that's saying, hey, the static that is static right now, set something other than static. And it's the position. So let's go ahead and update the position. Position. What are the choices? Absolute, fixed, static. So let's change it to absolute. There we go. There's our weak covered thing. So now what we want it to do though is always be in the upper right, and it is only 8:39, so we good in the neighborhood. So I know I have no idea what I just clicked. Oh, an AI drawer. Man, that was crazy. So I was doing AI with ChatGPT, and I was like, hey, who would be your number one pick for football, fantasy football? And it was telling me Christian McCaffrey. Now, Christian McCaffrey is amazing, right? But like anybody who had him last year, like literally was their season was a disaster. And Saquon Barkley ended up being one of the very best people to have. And he was a guy who got picked up by the Eagles, and then the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, and a lot of people give a lot of credit for that, and won the Super Bowl to Saquon Barkley. So I'm talking to ChatGPT, and I'm like, going back and forth, I'm like, Christian McCaffrey, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what about Saquon? And he goes, yeah, he's pretty good. He's a quarterback. He's a running back for New York Giants. And I was like, dude, I thought, isn't he with the Eagles? And it's like, oh, you're right. It's so crazy what ChatGPT is just wrong about a lot of times, and what it's right about. It's just hard to wrap your mind around what its issues are. Okay, so I trying to present a menu item, and I want to be in the upper right hand part of the browser. comma, even when the user scrolls. Okay, CSS fixed. So this is pretty cool. I have no idea why it would tell me to put a border radius on there. And then, so its position is fixed, top is 10. So that basically is going to prevent it from, it's going to keep it at the top, 10 pixels down. Right is 10. So that's going to keep it from the far right to the 10. Our Z index is 1000. So you know, I had made Z index 2. So they're just assuming that everything is going to be less than 1000. Now, there's probably a really good scheme for like, okay, everything that is in this sort of area is in this range, everything. So I think thousands is probably a good idea. I don't know why I would do the border radius, but let's go ahead and do that. I guess because that's better than no border. So dot menu item. So let's go ahead and put that in our app component CSS. And I don't know, should we just give it that class or should we tell it to make that? I think we should make that a class of menu though. It's not a menu item, it's a menu. So the dot means it's a class. So it won't do anything if I hit this because it doesn't have that. So let's go ahead and get rid of our, I don't know what just happened. Did something break? No. I don't really understand why. Oh. No. App menu computer not used within the template. I don't know. I feel like something really weird is going on. App menu component. Oh, it's upset that I have it in the template, but I don't know why everything. Okay, so I'm gonna Control Z this, and what I'm going to do is get rid of that class because that seems to have broken everything, and I don't really understand why. This is so weird. Okay, so I'm going to kill it all. We're going to restart and just see if we're in just some weird place. So it's building. You ready? And it's built. It's redrawing. Guys, I don't know what just happened. That was weird. Control Z. Let's add that. And that broke everything. Why would creating a class that you don't even use anywhere break everything? And it really, okay. Okay, so let's just go ahead and just, I don't know what that is, why that's breaking things. menu stuff. Is there something about the menu? And I guess I should name it app menu. So that didn't even like really just breaks everything. Okay, so changing it to menu stuff makes it happy, but having it the generic menu breaks everything. What about if I could kill it and restart it? This is kind of like one of those things where like they say opportunity only presents itself, once in a while, and a lot of people just let it go. Like this is an opportunity to learn something. So it makes a lot of sense to kind of sit down and try to figure this out. How weird is that? Now I know there's special code for like when you make styles so that the whole thing doesn't have to rebuild from scratch and all that. I have a feeling what we have done is we found a small bug in that system. And menu is a very, very generic word that who knows, it might be getting used somewhere. All right, so now that's so wild how it just breaks everything. Okay, so that is good. We probably don't want the color to be black anymore, or gold. It's kind of weird because we used to have an inline style that made that color. That gold color, but I don't think there's anything in here, right? Yeah, so somehow it's still picking up that gold color, which is really bizarre. Okay, so we stopped it and restarted it, and we'll see what happens. Because I would expect this text to be black, not gold, or not the wheat color that we had as an inline style before. See where it's getting its color from. See, it still has this P. Oh, silly rabbit. The inline style is over here. All right, there we go. So it is 8:50. So I probably should start transitioning to my work day. Should be a fun work day. I've definitely got a very, 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 very complex, difficult thing that I'm going to be working on today. So it's going to be very heads down and deep into that. I had last night. I was like kind of having a hard time falling asleep because I was kind of thinking about like just my brain was just going crazy considering all the stuff that for work that I have to figure out right now. And it was just like, then I shifted over to this, thinking about this instead, and I went right to sleep. And I think that it is kind of important to have your own little sort of something to think about that's not like open-ended, something that is like where that you can fully encapsulate in your brain and sort of just hammer on, but will take up all of your brain. So it kind of pushed all my work stuff out, fully took up all my focus on it, but it was enough that I didn't just keep sort of growing, you know. So I think this is very mentally healthy to have your own little project like this that you're working on. But anyways, so tomorrow's Saturday. I'll probably won't. I'm going to spend some time trying to make a nice video. I'll stash this. Try to make a nice video of my Cypress stuff to put on LinkedIn, or to kind of upload to YouTube and upload to TikTok, and then link over from LinkedIn about for that Cypress thing, and that will be cool. And then for this task, I guess we'll get the 3 dots going, and then kind of figure out, like, okay, so how does this one work? See, so then you get like a little rounded, cornered thing like that that goes just under. So I'm going to want something like that. So when you click on that, you get like a little rounded thing. And probably I like this coloring too, with this sort of light, or this charcoal or whatever that color is, and then and white text, and basically maybe like a little button that says new mesh, and then, or new visualization, new viz, and then it'll maybe look like one of these, and then you click it, and then one of these shows up there, and that start down that path. I doubt we'll get that all done, but probably have it done by next Wednesday or whatever, and then I can not. Then these, it will by default not have any of these to begin with. All, and so that first Cypress test will just check to see if the menu's there, and then like the second Cypress test will probably click add something and then check to see if the visualization's there, and then the third Cypress test will probably like, oh wait, no, then I also want to get delete done. I don't want to just have add done. I want to have delete done. So I think the way delete will work is like when you click on this, or mouse or tab to it, it'll get like a little border around that side of it, and have like a little X button there. And if you click that X button, or tab and hit enter on that X button, then it will delete it, and then everybody should redraw themselves. And that functionality also needs to be built out. So that probably actually will take till like not this Wednesday, not like 5 days from now, but probably like the following Wednesday. So like 12 days from now, that'll probably all be working, and then that will be I'll be able to build a very cool Cypress test at that point, which will then, that following Saturday, I'll probably try to make the second with the new stuff. And then I think that is everything for getting started. And then the next thing will be like to be able to edit edit one of these things, which would probably be like if you double click on this, or if you click once, and then there's going to be a little icon to edit, and then basically what I'm envisioning is half of the screen will be just the one that you're working on, and the bottom half will be like an editor type of pane type thing, where there'll be basically at first just a text box that has the JSON on it, that then you'll be able to like manually make changes on that, and that will be in its own branch. And that is basically to ensure that we can do import export, because one of the use cases I'll definitely want to do is be able to copy this, put it in Notepad or Visual Studio, make tweaks to the JSON, and then paste it back in and watch and see the changes. Anyways, everybody, happy coding. Bye.